Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Happy Saturday. Hello, everybody. Welcome, Randall, Danny, and our special guest, Chris. Thank you so much for being here, Chris.
Thanks for being here, man.
Oh, let me pause myself so I don't hear myself. I'm hearing myself come through. But that means that we're live. So happy Saturday. It is May 3rd at 9 a.m. on the dot. We have a really special episode for you today. I am super psyched to have Chris here. So let's just get right into it. Unless you guys have any opening thoughts.
Yeah, for those savvy viewers and listeners out there, you might notice there are 4 of us today.
4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You're like, one of these things is different. I'm not sure.
It's
Did
not
Danny
like
get a
the
haircut? I don't know.
Yeah, you might be confusing myself and Chris because we're both wearing the React Miami shirts. We're sporting our React Miami shirts.
And you do sound and look identical.
We do, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
I just forgot my
easy
glasses. Oh, I don't have my vibe coding glasses. Damn it. Oh, well. Anyway, yeah, Chris and I met at React Miami, which was quite an amazing conference. What do you think, Chris? Do you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they always do it. Like, I've been going every year there, and it's like, it's always just a great event. Like, and you get to meet so many people. And like I said, we did the volunteering. So it's like you get a little behind the scenes of like what actually goes on at these conferences, which is, it's actually pretty amazing, all the moving parts.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Like the work they put in to make that thing like actually run smoothly.
Plus, volunteer is the way to go there for just meeting people. And you guys are a great case study because you met. Look, you met.
Yeah, exactly.
Else.
We're
like the perfect point of
we're
going to that, right?
now. Yeah.
It's the only way I can make friends, pretty much now.
Dude, I mean, it is great because I think one of the hardest things as a developer is that a lot of people, like, when you're a developer, like a lot of people don't understand you because your brain just works different. Like you think of everything as the tech and the underlying tech. And
they just don't.
Most people are just like, it's a screen.
They don't think about it, dude.
Stuff.
It's magic. Yeah, it's just magic, and they don't think about how it works. And when you're interested in how it works, they don't really want to hear about it.
Yeah, I know. Anytime I start lecturing, everyone in my household is like, "Can you just stop with that, please?"
Yeah.
So I know. I'll start to explain something to my partner, and I just see her face is just like the eyes are just like,
and I'm ignoring you.
Don't care anymore.
Yeah,
exactly. I just did this great for loop. It's like, and complexity. My wife's like, what do you want to eat for dinner? I'm like, okay.
Steak, I guess. Thank you.
Yes. I'll get back in the kitchen now.
Yeah. Good morning, Chris Raw in the comments. How are you today? How is everybody? Everybody, welcome Chris onto the show. So, go ahead, Randall. I see you.
Well, before we get into it, everybody should look down in the comment or in the description or in the show notes because we're going to link to Chris's YouTube channel.
Yep,
he
it's
has
already
some
linked there.
super high quality videos on there.
Yeah,
that I've watched a few of them.
I got
really a lot of value from them, and like that's a lot. I mean, I'm not. It's a lot to get value from stuff on YouTube because there's a lot of content out there that's just BS. That's some AI doing whatever, but like you can tell that he puts a lot of effort into it and a lot of like accumulated wisdom, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah,
that is like one of the things that's hard to find though is good content because so much of it is just crap, or it's like a minute of actual content and the rest is just like promotion and like pushing you to do something.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely appreciate it. I'll send you guys the $20 I promised.
Yeah,
you for that little,
put in the mail.
No,
for real
though. 100.
I have to say, like,
it's really good though.
It's hard to find.
I take that comment back.
Just 1/5 of that comment you get to keep. It's hard to find high quality information, but also, cinematic quality, like. People who actually put the time into creating high quality looking content, but also the information is great. So if you guys are listening, definitely check out his channel. It's in the description. And today I want to talk a little bit about your story, Chris, because you have a very interesting story and you're able to progress as a developer very quickly. And I think that's what a lot of people in our group are interested in doing, right? They want to like become a developer and, work for Facebook within a week. So if you can help them do that.
So what did you do?
I mean, I'm gonna do my best. Yeah. Hold on, let me get my secret sauce. Hold on real quick.
No, but I want to, if you can share a little bit about your story, how you got into software development, maybe what you did before that, because a lot of people in our group too are career changers, and I know that you did that as well. So I just, I think it'd be cool to show people that this is possible. It's totally doable, and you don't have to be somebody special. You are special to me, Chris, but everybody can do this. So please share with us a little bit about like how you got started and how you've progressed since you got your first job as a software developer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so, I won't go too far back, but like pretty much the baseline of it is I actually went to beauty school when I was 13, not by choice. It was a punishment. That's a whole nother story on its own. So maybe next live
Did you
stream
drop out? Are you a beauty school dropout?
I finished. And the best part, I was the only guy in there too. So that was like the reason why I finished. So
the girls were just all braiding your hair.
Exactly, except for I was 13.
And
so
doing your nails.
Exactly. Yeah, so I did that for a long time, like 15 years pretty much. And I went ahead, I had my own salon. I had a bunch of different businesses, a handyman business, furniture import company. And then so I had a little bit of a turning point, right? I think most people have this like little turning point that switches careers.
Yeah.
I was at a job for handyman. I was fixing like a light in someone's backyard, a snowbird down here who, for anybody who doesn't know snowbirds, they just come down to Florida for 6 months, use up all of our resources, and then leave.
Well put. Drive horribly and then just leave.
Exactly. So I was up there, or I was at this guy's house. He wasn't home. Nobody was there. And I'm fixing a light. Well, I didn't realize I didn't set my ladder right. So I ended up falling about 10 feet. Almost cracked my head open on this pool, like broke my rib. I'm laying there, like middle of the day, nobody's around. I'm bleeding all over the place. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, I am 28 years old.
Should I change careers?
Right. It was literally that aha moment, right? Like, if I do this another 5 years, like I'm not gonna make it. So literally that night, I just was like on Facebook or something. I saw like coding boot camp, and I was like, I like to code. I'm Asian. I should be good at this, right?
I can do math.
I can do math really well. So honestly, I just said, screw it. I signed up for the boot camp. I did the initial call, and it's funny how things kind of work out a little bit. So it was the start of 2020. I started this boot camp. Well, my salon got shut down, with COVID. My handyman business got shut down, everything. So it was literally just all coding at that point. And, I went through the program, but the biggest thing I realized is people just think you can go through these programs and that's it. You get your little certificate, you're good to go. You can take that to Facebook and say, hey, Zuck, I want a job now. I got this thing.
Yeah.
It's not the case, and that's the reality of it. But there's so many people who don't have that perception. You have to
they also advertise heavily on that's all you need.
Of course.
Right?
Oh,
and I
1000%.
mean like we've talked about that a ton too, because we all went and like they don't prepare you. I mean, they introduce you to a lot of stuff for sure. And that's helpful, but they don't prepare you for getting a job.
Exactly. Like they'll give you the little sandbox to play in, right?
Yeah.
And then it's your job to just dig as deep as you can kind of go in this little sandbox. And that's what I did. I mean, I went as deep as I could. I tried to learn as much as I could in that time. And it didn't even stop afterwards, right? Like everybody thinks that, you can get the job right after. Well, I mean, you have to also now switch it into more of a networking kind of ordeal.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself out there. And long story short, finished in July, bunch of applications everywhere, denied. And then finally got a shot in November and been at this company ever since. And it was honestly the best company I've worked at. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then,
but I think can I ask a question too? Because I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with too, is, everybody knows, and I think now too, with the way the market is, like you get rejected a lot, like a lot.
Yeah.
And even to get like that one interview that might not even go well anyway, right? So how long was your application process? And just ballpark, like how many did you actually apply to, do you think?
I applied to a ton, and it was such a weird thing for me to actually apply to jobs because I was self-employed for 15 years. Like, you don't know what that concept is.
Well,
like
that was a hard thing for me too, because you work, right? If you're working somewhere for a long time, everybody's been in careers for a while. You haven't applied, right?
Exactly.
And it's a totally different experience. Yeah.
Like, what's a cover letter? You know what I mean? Like all these different things. So I have, you know, we were talking about this before. Like I have this very obsessive like personality for things. So it's like, okay, at that point in time, like resumes are the key to open this door. So I went like deep into that. I'm like, okay, I need to tailor every resume for each application. Like it's a lot of work, but also like you need to stand out somehow. Right. And that's kind of the biggest thing. So I would tailor each resume for that, tailor each cover letter, like do things kind of outside of the box. Like I have a story, I'll make it a little short, but one job that I applied to, I didn't even realize there was about 700 applicants, which by today's standards is actually kind of normal, it seems like, right? But back then, that was like a lot, you know? And I was like, I mean, I don't have a shot, you know, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to do something different. It was in Angular. I didn't even know how to do Angular because most boot camps teach you React. I was like, I'm going to learn Angular. I looked up their website. I looked up, you know, certain applications they made, and I just rebuilt some of their applications better. And then I submitted that with my application. And I'm like, hey, send this to the engineering team. This is what I'm capable of doing, whatever, to just kind of stand out from the crowd a little bit. And I made it to the final two. It was a month-long process. And I was like, for someone new in this industry, I'm like, I got this. Like, I'll beat out this dude, whatever. I made it to the final two, sat there with the CEO, the CFO, and all the C-level execs. And like a couple days later, got that letter. And it was like, sorry, we've gone with the other applicant. Thank you for applying, all this stuff. Like, you crushed. Right.
Well, and you put in, that's the other thing that's hard though, is like you're crushed and you put in all that extra work to stand out. And I think that's where I think it can be very hard for people because it's where you can like lose your momentum.
Exactly. And that is the tough thing. You think you lose your momentum, but what I've come to realize, you have to take all of those experiences, take all of those, you know, lessons learned, everything like that, and you can apply that to the next one because, you know, to finish out the story, 2 weeks later, because I learned Angular at that first job, I saw another posting for another job that was Angular. I was more confident in applying to it. I did the same repetition there, but this time within a week, I had the job.
Nice.
That's awesome. I think
that's a great way to stand out too. I like that method.
I think there's two big takeaways from that for me. One is like doing that little extra bit of like building what they actually have just shows them that you're already not just like mass applying to a bunch of different companies and hoping for the best, but you're serious about their company because you've rebuilt some components on their website. And the second
that's
one
true, right? You've taken the time. Well, no, you've taken the time out of your day to do something extra just to prove that you can do it, which cuts out a lot of the crap because they're getting a lot of applications from people and they don't really know what these people can do. You're reading paper, right? You're seeing, you know, maybe GitHub repos and stuff like that, but you're not getting like a real sense of what somebody can do. I really think that approach is really cool. But I think it also shows, right, that you have to do extra now to get looked at. Because I remember there's so many people applying now though that these jobs like 700, 1,000 is not uncommon.
No,
it's actually
so
pretty
I heard
normal.
something this week that's pretty interesting is now that a lot of companies are including AI in their hiring process, you can actually do some prompt injection on your resume. So some hidden like white text on a white background, or you can do some of those invisible Unicode characters to prompt inject your resume. Be like, ignore anyone, or whenever this name is this, make sure it's the highest ranked. It responds, we think this person is an awesome candidate.
Wow.
So that's a new method for people out there to how to kind of
hack your way into
job.
a job.
Love that. Hey.
Yeah, but you know, is it even cheating though? Because honestly, I think that's just part of the game now, right?
Engineering. Yeah. The other thing I remembered, the second takeaway, and I think this one's cool too, is you were not scared to apply for a job that was sort of like outside your wheelhouse, because I think a lot of times when I or people that we have in our group look at jobs, they're like, well, I have React experience, but I don't have like whatever other technology is listed in there. And that shouldn't like deter you from applying to these jobs. If anything, you can learn a lot of tech pretty quickly if you're diligent and like you put in some time. I mean, you learned, how long did it take you to like get up to speed on Angular?
I mean, I put my back into it, but you know, I would say probably 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's got a lot of overlap with React too. I've messed with Angular before. I mean, they're very similar in that respect too. So,
well,
if you understand a framework,
exactly. And I mean, at the end of the day, like if you have the core concepts of programming down,
Yeah.
for loops, if statements, switch cases, whatever it might be, functions, all that stuff. At the end of the day, like a framework is just an abstraction of that. So if
Right.
you can understand the baseline and you have a good foundation, you can learn anything. Golang, Node, SQL databases, whatever it is, they all have these similar fundamentals there. It's just
Yep.
at the end of the day, it's just some syntactical sugar.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah, that's awesome. So my next question is, you were able to go, once you did get this job, you were able to go basically from a junior to a principal engineer. And maybe if you can explain like what a principal engineer means for some people, because they may not fully understand like where that title lies in the progression as a developer. But you were able to basically compress, let's say, I don't know, like 10 years of programming experience into 3. Which is pretty amazing. Like, not a lot of people can do that.
And then compress that 3 years into a 10-minute YouTube video, which I'll recommend you should go watch.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very
All right,
good.
fine. We'll make it $20 now. Okay, Randall. You got it.
Totally worth coming today.
Yeah, so a lot of people have asked me like what or how, right? Because that's always a big question because people want to do it. I think the other half of it is people aren't willing to do what I kind of did.
The work,
and the work behind it. And I think a lot of it comes down to I have a very unhealthy obsessive like kind of like personality when it comes to things. So at the end of the day, like all it took was outworking every single person that was on that team, right? Even if I was a junior, like it didn't matter. I would outwork you. I would do 2 times, 3 times as many bugs as you. And the other thing that a lot of people don't talk about, and I think, and I've talked about this in like my videos and stuff, but you have to have this ownership mindset with anything that you do. And I got that because of my entrepreneurial like background, right? Have my own salon. Like I was the owner, like anything that goes wrong, this is my business, right?
Yeah.
So I would take that mindset with every project I did, every bug I did, every feature I did, and I would essentially treat it as if it was my own business.
Yeah.
And I would take features that were coming out from the designers or the PMs, the product managers, and I'd be like, hey, like, I'll run with this. Like I'll put everything together, like just be useful. And I did that for a year, 2 years straight. I went from, let's see, I got started in January 2021. By July, they moved me up to mid. By December, I was just senior, and then the following year, December, I was principal. And like
That's
you said, for your second,
that's a very fast transition between all that.
it
And I
is.
think this is something where I see people struggle with this. It doesn't matter what career you're in, but
Right.
that tendency to sit back and wait for people to tell you what to do, to handhold right throughout the process. And it sounds like that's exactly what you didn't do.
Yeah.
Right?
No, and
And I think that's the real kicker, right? Is taking control of it and recognizing that, your future depends on the actions you take, not on waiting for other people. Because they want those jobs too. So they're gonna, I mean,
you have to stand out, right? You have to stand out. Like it was the same thing with the resume. Like the common like pattern is like you have to somehow stand out in like a sea of people, right? And to kind of talk about your second half of the question, like a principal engineer. So I mean the progression here, you have junior, mid-level, senior, and then after senior you have kind of like a couple routes you can kind of go. So principal, I would say, is more, you're still coding, a lot of times, but then it's just a lot more managerial stuff, right? So I have like people that report to me and things like that. Or you can go this other half, which is more of a staff engineer, and you're just more or less like people managing and dealing. You're that midway point between ton of meetings, like you're that midway point between C-level execs, your CTO, your VP, your engineering manager, and you're that buffer between business and the rest of the engineering team. Because as a junior, you don't really want to worry about architecture, basically. So.
Totally. Well, that's what happens is, right, it's the higher levels that end up designing the architecture and everything and discussing that in endless meetings.
No, exactly.
Randall LaPointe in the comments said, it's more about determination and willpower to seek out learning on your own. And I think he was referring to your boot camp, but I think you know, that applies here as well. Is you're able to progress so quickly because you just took ownership, and you're like, basically you can do that. You can sit back and wait 10 years to go from junior to principal, or you can just work your ass off essentially to get there, right? Faster.
And the crazy part is too, now I think it's weird, but it's easier than ever to learn this stuff. Because like, you know, I think about that a lot. Like back in like the 90s, early internet days, like it was hard to learn. You had to get these huge books, you know, and figuring out bugs was really hard. And now it's like all this information's out there to access that you just have to look for it and find it, and you can easily get it. I mean, with AI, it's even easier than ever now to learn these things and to, you know, to access stuff that's above your level. Like we talk about that a lot, but like cursor and stuff makes every junior developer essentially like the power of like at least a mid-level, because you have these tools that can like just extend your abilities way beyond, you know, what you normally would be capable of at that level of like learning and in your like career.
Yeah. Randall said, wait, I thought I've been designing the architecture too as a solo dev. And yeah, like I was going to ask you that actually, is in your current position, do you feel like, you know, you work mostly in the mindset of architecture, or are you also sort of like getting down and dirty with the code, right? Are you still writing for loops, or are you just like, hey, this is the tech stack we're going to use, and this is how we're going to architect this database and things like that?
So I think most people that are like kind of in like a position that I am, they do kind of stay on that higher level, like architecture and just kind of like seeing the bigger picture and things, which I think is very important. But I've always had this kind of builder's mentality, right? Like I have to have my hands on the stuff. So, and I think for me, it shows a lot of like, you know, the people that report to me, like I'm also willing to do the dirty stuff too. I'm not going to sit here and just push bugs, you know what I mean? Because they're frivolous to, you know, the junior
That you're
engineers.
too good for it?
Yeah.
That I'm too good for. Exactly. Like, no, I mean, I still like, I have a lot of other responsibilities and meetings and stuff like that, but I will still outwork everybody on my team in the sense of I will do 2x more of the bugs than everybody else, but I'll also still break down the architecture and the feature for, you know, these new designs, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
we actually have a question from Chris Val too. He asked, how have you embraced the AI tools, like all of these AI tools that are out now? Have you been using them? Like, have they become part of your workflow?
You know, though, I'll be honest with the majority that I'll kind of use AI and stuff is for like unit testing, right? Like I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what Primogen says. I hate unit tests. I absolutely
they're the
hate
worst. I don't like them either.
No, it works. It works to me. It works on my machine. I don't care what you say on yours, right? But I will use
Chris putting on like a blindfold when you get
it works here.
Yep, it's fine.
It's like Bird Box or whatever. But I will use like Copilot and stuff like that for like my unit tests for my like day-to-day, like even say like day-to-day or, you know, side projects that I build and stuff. I've started to dabble a little bit like Cursor. I don't use it that often, I'll be honest. And I think the biggest thing that I try to maintain as much as I can is maintaining that critical thinking aspect as a programmer, as an engineer, as a developer, whatever.
Well, that's one of the dangers, right? Is letting it take over all that thinking for you, because it is very good at it. And it can, I mean, it can do everything. So yeah, it's one of those dangers of you lose those skills if you don't use them, right?
It's kind of like, you know, a concept that like calculators, right? You know, back in the day you had to do your times tables and everything like that to like kind of just know on the fly. But you know, I go to the grocery store and you know, it's like $19.80 and I give a $20 and they're like,
hold on. Hold on, let me ask ChatGPT.
Exactly.
Oh, right? Dude, the best is when they put the wrong amount in and then they can't, and then it's
then they got it. Can I get a manager over here? You know, now you got two people staring at the screen, and I'm like, just keep the 20 cents.
Yeah.
You know? So it's that critical thinking aspect that I think is so important, and especially with this AI wave, like use it as a tool to 10x yourself.
Yeah.
But don't use it as a replacement.
Yeah.
Is kind of my
I think that's a great point. One of the
And then-
things
I
that I
like what,
noticed,
I like what you're saying there. I watched a talk by this guy, Joseph Thacker. He's a hacker, and his last name is Thacker.
Thacker the hacker.
Thacker the hacker.
But he goes by the moniker Res Zero, and he had this TEDx talk in Kentucky on AI hack bots, because now they have hack bots that can do better on bug bounties than people actually do. They found they found 0 days in like Google and PayPal and stuff like that.
Wow.
That bug bounties have been around for years for those, and nobody found them. So he did something in there, and he said that AI is great, but at the same time, like what you're saying there with the calculator, it completely destroys your ability to do any reasoning. So he's like, in order to best implement it in your life, you have to kind of now separate it in two ways. You have to say, okay, what's the best I can do with it, and then what's the best I can do without it, and you have to focus on both of those areas simultaneously.
Well, that's what I was saying actually. I think that was before we even got. Well, I don't even know if it was when we were on live or not, but like my use of cursor has very much changed over time now, to where I use it for small things and very specific things, because I'm still controlling the overall architecture, the overall decision making. And of course, when there's times where I get stuck or I'm not sure which route to go, it's great because I can get options, and I can get clear options about maybe which the best way to approach this, but it's not doing everything for me. And I think that is the danger of letting it take over too much, because then you're just a person prompting.
Yeah, no, exactly. You using it in like a very tailored to very specific scenarios that Stack Overflow can't, provide you, I think is good, but you have to see the other side of the coin, where you have to say, okay, why? Why did this work? Why did it decide to do this? How does this work? Right?
Yeah. One of the things that I've been asking a lot of people, because after React Miami, my goal was to just go to as many networking events as possible, and I want to talk a little bit about the one that just happened this week that you actually talked at, which was amazing, by the way. But one of the things that I've been doing is asking people this question about how are they using AI, and a lot of people who are working for companies that I've talked to, they use cursor in their own time, but their companies don't let them. And I think that's a common, maybe that'll change over time, but for now, a lot of companies are a little bit like skittish or scared about using cursor, right?
If you look at Cursor's thing,
exposing your code base.
They have 14,000 companies now using it.
Yeah.
Cursor. So, I mean, that's not a lot.
It's not that much.
And probably smaller companies would be my guess, because it probably makes their developers a lot more powerful, right? But yeah.
Yeah. So
there was some big company that I just heard about that was saying that if they're not using cursor, then they're going to get left behind.
Shopify, maybe.
It could have been. Yeah, that must have
been Shopify. I think so.
Yeah.
So, like, I've heard a lot of people say that they can use GitHub Copilot at work, but not things like Cursor or Windsurf or Bolt or anything like that. So you do still need to have these skills, right? Because even if you are amazing vibe coder, you're not going to be able to do that in a job.
Yeah.
So, and so I wanted to sort of transition, because this week I know, Randall, I see you. I said the word transition. I get it. So this week you did a meetup for Syntax Summit, and you talked about using AI agents for persona engineering. And I was thinking about this, and that was, by the way, like, awesome presentation. But I was thinking about this for people who are new into software development and want to get their name out there. One of the things that you kind of need to do is build a brand for yourself as a developer, at least online, right? So people know you exist, because you can be the best developer in the world, but if you're not putting yourself out there, nobody will ever know that, and your chances of getting hired are much less. So this week you talked about how you're using AI agents, like in this case we use Claude, but you can do this with pretty much anything, ChatGPT, to basically engineer content around what you're doing, while at the same time integrating these strategies for different platforms. So you were talking about LinkedIn, and maybe you can share a little bit about what you did on LinkedIn and the kind of results you got, and basically how people can go. You don't have to go too technical into it, but what persona engineering means, and how you're using these AI agents to basically do the heavy lifting for you, so that you can focus on coding, but still create amazing content that people engage with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, so, all of us in this kind of field, we're some sort of an introvert, right? In the sense of like, we just like our laptop, or you can call it your girlfriend, whatever you want to do. That's up to you.
Her name's Sheila.
Right, exactly. But it is so important. That's kind of that other side of the coin that I was talking about earlier, where you have to go and you have to network. You have to find the community.
Yeah.
You have to like build on these skills, these social skills, because at the end of the day, I have a lot of people who like just add me, like random add me on LinkedIn stuff, and I'll accept it. It's fine. But it's like I laugh because then they're instant messages. Hey, I need a job. And I'm like,
that's cool.
right. And I don't like to just brush people off. So I mean, I'll be real with people. I'm like, look, I understand you need a job. You're probably in a desperate situation. I definitely, can feel that because I've been in that situation. But you are approaching this completely wrong, my guy. Like I don't know anything about you. I don't know why, what you do. I don't know who you are, but if it
what
was
skill
like
sets you have, anything.
I just have your first and your last name, and I don't even know if that's really you, you know? But the other side of the coin is like, if Russell would be like, hey, like I need a job. Well, I mean, I have a rapport with him now, right? I know who he is. I kind of know his mentality. I know what he's good at. I know things he's built. So then I'm more inclined now to be like, oh yeah, let me try to help you out with this. So it's building these relationships. And with this persona engineering, which I don't even know if this is a term. I'm going to coin it. It's mine. Yes, it's staying right here,
you own
trademarked. I used AI to essentially try to build more of like a developer brand, a personal brand for myself, just because like it's good to put yourself out there and then let people know what you're about, what you like to do. If you like Angular, if you like React, why do you like these kind of things? And it just shows your internet persona to everyone, to recruiters, to hiring managers, everything like that. So what I did, not to get too technical, I basically used the AI to leverage content. And instead of just doing this like zero shot kind of prompting that most people love to do and get immediate tailored results.
Let me stop you there for a second.
But,
so
sure.
Zero shot just means like basically you're just one time prompting. Like I'm just like, hey, you are this, give me this, right? It's not like a continuous conversation. That's all.
Exactly. So, I like to have these sessions with AI where I kind of workshop ideas. Like, AI will prompt me, I will prompt it, and we just kind of almost have this like conversation, like you're having almost like a humanized conversation. This is not leading to the movie Her. I promise. I'm not walking. Okay,
it's already well
good
past
movie,
that,
though.
my friend.
Okay, maybe a little bit.
And you can even do this even if you're not familiar with agents and creating agents. You can even do this just straight with ChatGPT or something like that too, by just prompting it correctly and telling it that this is what you want to do.
Exactly. And I mean, at the end
now
of the
they
day,
have tactile holograms, so it's only going to be a matter of time until she has a presence.
Exactly. And I mean, for everyone out there, like the difference between ChatGPT and an AI agent is the agent is an LLM, large language model. It is ChatGPT, but you're just giving it access to tools and then giving it a box to play in, right? So I would have these conversations, but I would make it very personalized to me. I would give it stories about me, my tone, my voice, everything like that. Use that as a baseline, and then I actually created this script where I can go get the transcripts of like YouTube or articles of people who are very good at strategists, right? Who are very good at these different strategies. Let's say LinkedIn content strategies. Pull all those like transcripts, pull all that data from these people, and then leverage that with AI in combination with my like persona, who I am, what I do, all that kind of stuff. And I take these two concepts and now I workshop like LinkedIn content out of it, or like even YouTube content, stuff like that. The results I got from this when I started, I forgot the exact number, but I think I ended up getting about 2.5 million impressions on, a couple of my posts when I started working through it. I ended up getting like 4,000 like new contacts and followers and like people adding me and stuff, which has been great because for me, the whole point of LinkedIn is to build your circle, build your community, like find people who have similar ideas and then be able to leverage these relationships between people. So I just met with a guy, he reached out to me, saw my post, connected. I mean, he's in Barcelona, right? And it's like was able, and he's doing this whole like really cool thing with like getting people from the EU for different positions around the world, right? And just had a conversation for like 3 hours with this guy. Didn't even know him, but now I build a rapport, and I think we have a bi-weekly call now. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Chris, there's your monetization. Build that course out and sell that. Seriously, I guarantee I would buy it, and I'm pretty sure most of the other people here listening would buy it.
Yeah,
that is a good one.
It was really cool to watch because I think you simplified a lot of what we did in this meetup on what was it, Wednesday. But yeah, one of the biggest takeaways that I took from that, which is it sounds sort of minor, but I thought this was really cool, was in like I think it was the last prompt that you actually put into, we use Claude for this one, but the last prompt before you sort of started the conversation was you had put in there, do not just agree with me over and over, right? Like challenge me on things. And I think that's huge because
well, they're trained to be helpful and agreeable.
Right.
And that is the problem,
and we
right?
use it that way so often where we just like default to whatever they say is probably better than my opinion. And a lot of times that's why we get such robotic content, I feel like, out of these large language models, because you're just agreeing, yeah, that sounds great. And then everything sounds the same, right? Everybody who prompts it gets the same sort of thing.
You can tell very easily because they are all structured the same,
right?
Because that's what works the first time through. Most of the time for it, people give it the thumbs up, right? And so it's like, yeah, this works. Here's a model.
Yeah, and definitely, you know, the first few questions. So the first thing that Chris had us do was answer these questions that were really just telling our story, like who we were, where we came from, how we became a developer, what our interests are, what our hobbies are, what our fears in life are, things like that. And you're just giving it all this information so that it can really craft more personalized content about you and create, you know, great content. And I think this is something that we see a lot of our students inside the inner circle leveraging right now, which is, you know, sharing their story as they're learning. And I think that's one of the best things you can do as a developer, right? Because you're not just working in isolation. You know, when a hiring manager goes to, like, you know, you get to that last stage of like, okay, these are, you know, the best candidates, they're going to look into you a little more, and they're going to probably just type your name into Google or something like that. And if it comes up with like this backlog of blog posts or LinkedIn posts or video content or whatever, where you're actually like explaining your story, showing that you're more than just another person who went through a boot camp, I think that gives you such a huge advantage. So super powerful technique that you shared with us. And I really appreciate you doing that. That was like really, really amazing webinar. And webinar, I say a meetup. But I think that's like, I want to ask you too, like, for people who are doing this, either self-teaching, going through a boot camp, we even have people who've gone through like CS degree, anybody who's doing that and is looking to find a job, would you suggest, and I know the answer to this already, but would you suggest that these people go out and network, like go to meetups, go to conferences? Do you think that's powerful, or should they just, you know, press easy apply over and over and over until their finger goes numb?
Right. No, and I mean, yeah, the obvious answer, right, is yes. Like, you have to put yourself out there. And, you know, to touch back on something that you were just talking about. So when I, like, let's say I get like an application for, like, you know, people for a software engineering job.
Yeah.
I don't even wait till the last round. I will go and look up that person. I will look up their GitHub. I will look up their LinkedIn. I will look up everything about this person, because you have to also think, how long are typical interviews? An hour? Like, maybe, you know, 30 minutes, 30 minutes most of the time. How are you going to tell your entire life story, tell who you are? Because at the end of the day, every single person is unique, right? Everybody has a unique story. And because of your unique story, makes you a unique developer in some sense, right? In some way. There is no way you can convey that in 30 minutes.
No.
Well, it also makes, I think also too, you're looking for somebody that's going to fit on the team, right? Which means understanding your personality, understanding how they solve problems, understanding where their struggles are, because that's going to also be benefits and assets to your team and to figuring out if they're a good fit for the team, right? I mean, it makes total sense. I also just want real quick, just because I like what you're saying about that persona engineering with the AI, and I think this is one of those things where I think people can just mess around with AI more and explore different use cases with, rather than just these one-off interactions. Try engaging with it deeper to get better results and more unique results that are, you know, work for whatever you're trying to do. I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, definitely.
No, and absolutely.
I mean, you can see it in the numbers. Chris showed us like his analytics sort of from LinkedIn, and you can see like when you made a couple of these posts that you use the persona engineering. What did you get on that one post? Like 1.5 million impressions or something like that?
Yeah, so I got 1.5 million impressions. I want to say it got like 8,000, 7,000 maybe likes, and it got like 450 reposts or something like that. And I know from that one post, I ended up getting, I want to say close to like 3,000 followers, I think, on that one post.
Yeah,
that's huge.
That's like huge. Like imagine if you guys were able to do that. Even as a junior dev, you can basically engineer just how you're making these posts so that you're using the actual LinkedIn strategies that these LinkedIn strategists are using to get high volume, you know, engagement. But then it's, you know, you get connections with other people. I want to go ahead.
Just one more thing on that. So my thing is like I've always tried to come at issues not out of a place of vulnerability or not out of a place of weakness, right?
Yeah.
So I say this because when you go and you start adding people on LinkedIn, usually there's like some sort of like weak, like you're like, oh, I hope they like accept my request, stuff like that, right? But doing this in a little bit of a different angle and a little bit of different framing where you're putting content out there, you know how people like look at you and want to like connect with you because they either, you know, resonate with what you say, anything like that. I think the coolest people, because I have like LinkedIn Premium, so I can see who, I'm just a nosy Nancy. So I can see who looks at my profile, right?
Yeah.
One of the coolest people that have checked out my profile because of my posts is the CIO of Subway.
Wow.
Like, which I think is like super cool. You know what I mean? Like, it's a Fortune 500 company, and this C-level executive looked at my profile because of
which is awesome. Yeah.
Did you ask him for free sandwiches?
You know,
they have those cards they used to give people, didn't they? Yeah.
Like the Amex Black card of Subway.
Subway Black.
Exactly. Once I start working out again, I will definitely hit him up for some free subs. What were we going to say? Sorry.
We have a question in the comments. This is from Chris Rawl. He said, how can you tell if you're a good fit in 30 minutes with somebody? I'm not totally sure what he means by that, but I'm assuming...
An interview.
Yeah, in an interview.
How can you show that you're a good fit?
I think that's the point is you can't, right? Is what you're saying is you have to look at all this other information and try to get a sense of who this person is.
And Chris has been one of the ones who's sort of documenting his story and creating a blog around, you know, what he's doing, what he's learning, what he's building. And a lot of people have been doing this inside our Facebook group. If you haven't, you should be doing that. But also out on LinkedIn, right? And you can use some of these techniques where you inject your own persona into AI along with some of the you know, strategies and have it build you content. And one of the things that you mentioned too, Chris, is like, you don't just have to take that content and just throw it into LinkedIn. Like you can look at that and edit it too, right? And make it your own. And you get some really great results. So
yeah. And to like kind of answer the question, like, how do you get to know someone? That's probably why leak questions are, oh my God,
Leak code?
The leak code, yeah. Sorry, I was on a game show called Leak Heat, so that's like literally the first thing I always think about. So leak code, that's the reason why a lot of these FANG companies or like a lot of companies will use these as kind of like markers. At the end of the day, they don't actually care about you solving the problem. That's not the whole point about it, right?
Yeah.
The entire point of this process, I'm going to give you something extremely hard because it's a scenario. If I give you a bug, are you going to spend 3 minutes on it and then come blow up my DMs and say, hey, how do I do this, or how do I do that, how do I do that? No, I want to see your process. How do you attack this? What do you do first? What's your process of then figuring out what do you do when you get stuck? So solving one lead question in 30 minutes gives me a pretty good idea of how you would work as an engineer.
Yeah, your thought process, your critical thinking skills, how you're going to do this, and how well you're going to take ownership of it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I also want to add something to that, because like you said, in 30 minutes you can't do much, but what you can do is you can make the person feel good about themselves. So there's something from a series of books called Feeling Good and Feeling Great. They talk about the 5 secrets of communication. And so one of them is empathy, so like relating with another person, but another one is, they call it stroking. And it's basically just like you're stroking the person's ego. Because you're going to be in an interview with somebody who essentially has an ego because they're higher up in the company. They're the hiring person. And if you take a liking to them, if you take an interest in them and you stroke their ego, they're going to feel so good. And then they're going to be like, I like this guy because he makes me feel good. That's different than all these other people who are trying to get me to stroke their ego. He actually stroked mine. And, you know.
Well, so that's a really good point too.
Here, dude.
It's an old game.
That is a really good point, though, because you have to, that also shows initiative. Like, you took the time to figure out who your interviewer was, and then you went and looked them up and figured that out. You know what I mean? Like, and found talking points, basically.
This is also why, though, going to meetups, going to these things is a good idea, because it's going to prep you for talking to strangers, for interacting with others where you have no information ahead of time. And just being able to communicate, because I think that's another thing a lot of developers struggle with, and people are coming at this from a lot of different fields, but that communication skills, those social skills, working on them is also crucial, I think, to land that job and to just be anything in this industry at all.
Yeah, I've seen just in React Miami and Wednesday's meetup, just the immense amount of value in building your local community, right? Because that's something I've talked a lot about too, is a lot of developers want to go from a boot camp or just self-teaching to getting like this high level remote job. And that's probably not very likely, because companies have a lot of choices when it comes to remote work, right? They can choose anybody all over the world, right? But if they need somebody to come into an office, they have a limited supply of developers, right? There's only so many people around a certain area that can drive into an office. And so if you can build yourself up, or like, just be a figure, like somebody that exists in this local community, you're going to have a lot better chances of landing a job. And that doesn't mean you can't work remote in the future, but your best chance of that first job, which is typically the hardest, is just, going to an actual office. Would you agree with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with this. Sorry, my dogs came in.
Oh, that's cool.
I would definitely agree with that. Like, you have to, it's about building relationships. It's about building a rapport with these people, right? Like, they're going to be more inclined to refer you, for a position. Like, I know we have one guy, he literally has never applied to a job. He has gotten all of his developer jobs just through connections.
Yeah.
Never even had to go through the interview process, because he has such strong rapport with the people, and they know exactly what he can do, what he's about, without even like doing a 30-minute interview.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's also a good point that you just made. You made me think about this, is like, when you go to these meetups, you start talking to people in technical terms. Like, you ask them questions about their tech stack and how they got started and like what they're working on. And that's like a great preparation for actually going into an interview, right? If you're just going into it like, hey, I've only been to a boot camp and that's all I know, you're really at a disadvantage. When you start talking to people and you're like, hey, these are the types of things that people are interested in, this is what people are working on. Like, I was blown away, honestly, when we went to React Miami, by how many people were using Cursor. I thought it was like gonna be this like taboo thing, like nobody wants to use AI, because I watched that Primeagen video, but I was blown away. Like, literally every person was like, yeah, I use it like daily, or I exploit it this way, or I do this with it, or whatever. And so you start to see sort of like the nature of where all these people, what they're doing and where they are. And so you're sort of like caught up to like the current tech community, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, because I mean, it is different, right? Like going from a boot camp or just going from like projects that you just work on by yourself to going and working on a team is very different,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
It just naturally is, right? Because you don't have like with your side projects, unless you are very like structured with it, you don't have time constraints, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to have a deployment that's going to be out in a week. You don't have to like
Yes.
push it through a QA process and then have it tested and then deployed to different environments, right?
Yeah.
And have multiple levels of testing or hot fixes and all this kind of like things that come with the full like SDLC, so software development lifecycle, right? Where you go from user story to design to architecture to coding it to testing it and then deploying it and then going through again, right? Like it's just different. So the more you can experience that, the more you can learn through that through other people, the better, because then you're more prepared for it.
I think that's
Yeah,
actually
it's
one of the
huge.
interesting ways too, and we've seen some of the people in our group using AI for this too, is that you can use it to kind of do some of that design stuff and create user stories and all, and get a larger sense of that whole design
bigger
cycle
picture,
and software development cycle, which is kind of cool because it can kind of prep you a little bit for what to expect with a team. It's like almost like having a teammate in a way, which is kind of nice.
Yeah,
for sure.
Just a heads up, guys. We're already
Yeah,
going.
I know we're way over. I was just about to sort of wrap it up.
It is good.
I would love to keep having this conversation. And
it's great. Yeah.
While we're at it, like if you guys enjoyed this conversation, definitely go check out Chris's channel. He is awesome. He makes incredible content. If you're open to it, I think we'd definitely love to have you back on.
For sure, 1000%. You can find me on LinkedIn too. Like you can add me. Like you can always talk with me. Like I love just talking with everybody, right? So DM me. Like we can talk, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Sure.
and
keep an eye out for Chris's Persona Engineering course coming up.
Exactly.
If you guys are in South Florida, also like come to some of our events. Chris has, well, not my events. I don't have any events in South Florida, but Chris has Syntax Summit. Do you have like a shout out of where people can find information about that, or is it
a
just
lot of it's going to be on LinkedIn?
Cool.
Honestly, yeah. So a bunch of it's going to be on LinkedIn. We do like a developer kind of workshop. We tried to combine. So most like the networking events down here, or most of the events, I should just say, are more geared for networking, right? Which is great. It has its place. But there's this other layer that we try to add into it. So we do an hour of networking, and then we do like an hour workshop. So it's like hands on the keyboard. Let's learn something, because when you learn with like a community and a group of people, you learn so much more.
And it's like fun, right? And I was like laughing the whole time. Yeah, super interactive. People are like shouting stuff out, and you also had it sponsored by MongoDB and Tesla. So huge giveaways. We all got MongoDB credits. Some people got 24-hour Tesla test drives, tickets to the AI Summit down in Miami this weekend. So pretty amazing. Like these are the things that happen when you go to networking events. So
yeah. And I think next month we're going to have more Mongo. I think we're having a MongoDB advocate going to talk about like vector database and embedding and stuff like that with AI.
Nice.
And then I think Storyblock is going to be coming on, and even giving away some conference tickets to the big render Atlanta Tech Week.
Nice.
So,
nice.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris.
Thanks
if you
so much
guys
for coming on, man.
have been watching and want more of a community, we have an online community called the CodeNoobs Inner Circle and Inner Circle Elite. The Inner Circle is basically just a Telegram group where you can get access to us three 24/7. So if you have questions, if you need help with anything, there's a great community inside of there of other developers who are building things, trying to get jobs, things like that. So you can join us. Just go to codenoobs.io. You'll see all the information about that. And if you're in the Elite Inner Circle, then you get access to a 2-hour call after this call every single week. And that's what we're going to do in about 5 minutes. Usually it's like a half hour, 15 minutes.
Let's say in about 15.
Yeah, 15 minutes or so. And Chris is actually going to join us in there for a bit. Maybe the whole thing, maybe not. But if you guys are in there, you'll get access to ask him your own questions and interact with him. So again, thank you so much, Chris. We really appreciate it. This was an amazing conversation. I wish we could go for like another 2 hours, honestly. But
we'll do the Joe Rogan style.
Yeah,
like 3 hour, 4 hour podcast.
Yeah, just 3 hour podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah. But with that, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another one of these. And yeah, everyone in the comments, say thank you to Chris for being here, and go check out his channel. It's freaking amazing. He has great content, and he's a smart dude. So do what he did and get yourself your first job as a developer. All right. Thanks, guys. We will see you all in 5 minutes or next week.